Paul Wilson. It's gonna get worse. Before it gets better. It has been 2 weeks since I heard from my business lawyer, Richard Sims. I don't know what's up with him, but a few of my company accounts numbers were not adding up, and he is the only one who can straighten this mess out. Well, I am good for another month, but I have a sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach, especially since neither Richard or his wife Allison have been MIA suddenly. However, I wasn't too worried. They always went on vacation at the drop of a hat. But I never knew them to stay more than a week. But their kids didn't seem to be too worried. After all, they could have the house to themselves and have it one beer and a light switch away from an orgy. JaCinta has gone into town to meet her cousins/BFFs Sanji and Sharon to join their friend Aaron for lunch at Tropical Grill to celebrate Aaron's birthday. Since neither JaCinta, Sanji or Sharon dared to drive to Aaron's place in Kendrick Apartments. Ironic, we all used to live there, but when we came out vowing to never go back. First JaCinta and I moved up and out. After my business expanded and thrived, I then hired Sanji as my bookkeeper, whereas Sharon was now JaCinta's administrative assistant, both being paid enough to rival their husbands' take-home pay. As for our kids, PJ and Celetha adapted to Hyannis Landing with ease. PJ has the type of personality that he can and does make friends easily, but although we got him out of Kendrick Apartments, we couldn't get Kendrick Apartments out of him. Sure, he has friends here, but he has a bond with the friends there for nearly 16 of his 17 years. Truth be told, Kendrick was only a stepping stone to the lifestyle we work to afford. We work hard so we can play hard. PJ has always understood this, as he knows he is the heir to the throne. Although I left Celetha a good sum of money, I am here now and she can ask me for anything and she can have it, because I never want her to ask a man other than me or PJ for money. If she plays her cards right, she will have enough money to last a lifetime. However, she doesn't know this, because Celetha would brag about it and would fall for the old okey doke. And boom, there goes my hard-earned money. Celetha doesn't really remember living in Kendrick Apartments, except when she was 3, my Aunt Shirley's pet bunny rabbit boot bit her on her left foot big toe. She had to go through a battery of tests, but came back negative. For me. For JaCinta, this was the last straw, especially after the rabbit got loose, and I guess it felt safe enough and smart enough to make it across Highway 29. It didn't make it. But Aunt Shirley blamed Celetha for having jelly donut all over her hands, and after being bitten, Celetha bolted from next door into our then apartment. After we took her to the hospital, Celetha cried herself to sleep in the back seat, with her little head on her big brother's shoulder. My life is so very blessed and I intend to keep it that way, but as I said, Richard needs to get back from West Hell or wherever he has gone. If not, I am going to have to cash in the insurance I have. Also, since PJ is going to the Air Force, which costs me nothing, but if Richard doesn't hurry back, I am going to have just barely enough to carry my 6 employees for the next 6 months. I will have to pay them from Celetha's college fund. But if her grades don't shape up, all she will get is what she has worked for, which is nothing. She is spoiled rotten, and is forever thinking of ways to milk my wallet. But I know it's my fault. I could never say no to my baby girl, and this has been true since the day she was born. She was her mom's spitting image, but Celetha was even more beautiful because I know I made that masterpiece. But sometimes I have to turn my head to keep from laughing at some of the one-sided conversations she is having with either her friends or some male version of her. More bougie than thou. Truth be told, I don't know how she became so uppity, when she is just one generation out of the projects her damn self. Many people claim she gets it from her mom and me, talking about how we changed on them when he got ourselves on a higher manner of living our best lives. Hell. They are damn right we changed, and I don't regret it one bit. I mean, there are people living in not only Kendrick Apartments but Drummond, Northgate, and Oakland who could have been out also, but for the life of me, I think they only stayed after they came up a bit by additional income via a child or adult living in the home and working. They brought in innate furnishings, electronics that only they could afford, just to stunt and get shouts and whispers at the beautiful furniture going into the apartment. Silly clown-ass shit. Thank God Richard co-signed for the house we are in now. In fact, it was his former home, but he was moving to Conyers, Georgia, for a year to study for City Magistrate Judge of Greer. We have been looking at a bigger house than the one we have now, and PJ can have this house, while JaCinta, Celetha, and myself can take a ride out in the country looking at houses for sale. So yeah, we've changed our address, our phone numbers, and our bank account. Our whole damn lifestyle, and if anyone is waiting for an apology, then get in line. You'll be standing for a long time.
JaCinta. A day with the girls. I was so glad to have a day with my girls Sanji, Sharon and Erin. I am treating Erin to lunch at Tropical Grill for her birthday. She hits the big 45 today, and for 6 kids and a grandbaby on the way, she never got a chance to get out much. She and her husband, Raleigh, have been together for more than 20 years, but the thing is, although they are married, she lied to housing authority. She told them she didn't know where either of her kids' daddies were, knowing full damn well she married Raleigh McCoy September 12, 2000. True, she was already living in Kendrick Apartments when she met him. In fact, she still lived in the same apartment that she grew up in. She was raised by her grandma Sherry, who died when we were 18 years old, leaving everything to Erin, and since Housing Authority had such a huge amount of respect for Grandma Sherry, she was the property manager and trust. She did one hell of a job. Actually, it's to her credit that Paul and I got the apartment we once lived in. Looking back now, I don't think it was anything to be too thankful for, because although we had no money at the time, I longed to move out of our 3-bedroom apartment. I had never lived anywhere except in Sunnydale, the house I was raised in, and where my parents still live. Kendrick Apartments were nice, but I didn't want nice. I wanted quality, and so did Paul. We worked our asses off to get to where we are now, and hell will freeze over, and the devil will give free sleigh rides before I move back there. I never understood why Erin didn't move when her grandma left her over $40,000. Instead, she paid straight out for a new Honda Passport and a Mercedes-Benz, which the kids were not allowed to ride in. The Honda was the car they carpooled the kids in. When she met Raleigh, he was living on a beautiful piece of land with a lake in the backyard. We called it the cabin. It was old, but it was beautiful and well furnished. When Erin told us they were getting married, Sanji, Sharon, and myself got together to throw her a bachelorette/going away party, a surprise party. But the surprise was on us. After Erin showed up, we were having a great time. She got so many gifts we had to use our neighbor, Mr. Malachi's hand trucks to take them to both her cars, but she dropped a damn bomb and told us that Raleigh would be moving in with her instead of her and the kids moving in with him. But he had let his lease run out, so instead of her moving on up like the Jeffersons, she was gonna still be scratching and surviving, hanging in a chow line like good times. I was so damn mad, but Sharon was even more upset at Erin. She took her gift back. I was low-key jealous that she had a chance to get her ass out of here, but instead, she decided to stunt on the neighbors, and many were envious of the new furniture and appliances she had put into her apartment. But the shit was funny to me, because I saw Rent-A-Center deliver that load, and I also knew that she would soon be out of money, until the first of the month, when her check would kick in. I mean, she kept her bills paid, and both she and Raleigh kept their kids clean and mannerable. Her oldest son, Seiko, joined the army, got married, had a child, and decided other than visiting his parents and siblings, to hell with Kendrick Apartments, and Greer, South Carolina for that matter. He moved his family to Rock Hill, and I don't blame him one, but at least he invites them to stay the week or weekend with him and his family. Of course his siblings jumps on the invitation each time, and always came back bragging about the fun they had. However, Erin and Raleigh have only gone once, and that was to pick up their oldest daughter, Teresa. Erin resents the fact Seiko got married and moved away after he got out of the army, but he decided to make a career of it, and Erin blames Seiko's wife Kelly for the decision. But I know that boy wanted to get out of the cramped apartment and of having to hide daddy's belongings every inspection day. Erin just hated the fact since Seiko graduated, her check would be cut down. My opinion is Erin and Raleigh both enjoyed eating off the government biscuit. Assistance with electric bill, rent and water bill, while she has an able-bodied man who claims to now be on disability, so he gets a check too. Of course it's mailed to another address. I must say, for some lazy asses, Erin and Raleigh knew how to work the system like a 9-to-5 job. And that was them, not my monkey, not my circus. They were content to be ghetto fabulous in Kendrick. I wasn't cut out like that. I knew I was destined for a better way of living, and I vowed that if any of my homegirls showed even half my initiative and goals, and I know that it would be when I made it and not if, then I would do all I could to help them, and I did just that. Both Sanji and Sharon work for both Paul and I. Sanji is employed with Wilson Wiring and Sharon is my administrative assistant at the bank. Erin even laughed at them about that. That's just bougie for secretary, she cackled. Yet and still they both made enough to get out of Kendrick Apartments, with homes in Fogle Glen and Country Club Estates. Of course, Erin was quick to inform me that she can live in her grandma's apartment for next to nothing, with the clause that her rent will never rise above what her late grandma once paid, when she was alive and raising Erin, who already had 2 kids with Riley before her grandma passed away. I always felt the fact Riley was sleeping with Erin in her grandma's house when she was Alive was downright disrespectful, but Grandma allowed it, probably due to the fact as long as Erin was bugging the hell out of Riley, she wouldn't have time to bug her. I am sure Grandma wondered why didn't they go to his house to fornicate and procreate. I am sure it would do her no good to ask Erin, after all, she is known to be a fool for man, even one with the goals of a 10-year-old boy. Celetha. I am living my best life. I am so glad to be on spring break. Getting up at 5 a.m. is so not what you want, but then again according to old people, it's a blessing to even wake up in this day and age. I guess they are right, after all mine is a privileged life to wake up to. I have finally finding my own place in the world and I am blessed with wealthy parents and an overprotective older brother, PJ, however unlike most young, beautiful, privileged black girls, I detest a bad boy. In fact the only thing worse than a bad boy, is a bad boy from the projects. I am not a fan. Celetha. I am living my best life. I am so glad to be on spring break. Getting up at 5 a.m. is so not what you want, but then again according to old people, it's a blessing to even wake up in this day and age. I guess they are right, after all mine is a privileged life to wake up to. I have finally finding my own place in the world and I am blessed with wealthy parents and an overprotective older brother, PJ, however unlike most young, beautiful, privileged black girls, I detest a bad boy. In fact the only thing worse than a bad boy, is a bad boy from the projects. I am not a fan. I know I once lived in the projects myself, but as I also mentioned, I live a life of privilege and I plan to keep it that way. I do have 3 cousins I am right with, Lorla, Tippy and Tyj. They still live in Kendrick, but up until last year, the 3 of them spending the weekend at my house began to dwindle. Tyj had begun working for my daddy, whereas we still saw each other. He was often busy doing electrical work for the company. Lorla had left for her freshman year at Benedict University in Columbia, however, Tippy and I had one more year of high school. Although we attend different schools, I pick her up each Friday after my last class. I am so happy I got a car for my birthday last year. That way when I need to go anywhere, I don't have to bribe PJ to use his car. In fact, his old car, a 2018 Toyota RAV4, is now mine. He himself has been leasing an updated model as he is to be leaving for the armed forces soon. Ty J is supposed to move in with us to save up to get his own place. See, my cousins lived in the projects, but they were not projecting. There is a difference, and cousins Nika and G were the difference. They never want anything except the next blunt or party they were content on just being where they are. Don't get me wrong, they are teenagers and rely on their parents, but it won't always be the case. They are about to be grown-ass adults still waiting on their mom's government benefits each month, so they can spend their portion on what they think is the hottest gear, and we've bundles that get kinky within the second week, leaving them to gel down their worn tracks and rock a nappy ponytail, struggling to stay intact for that last 5 days. And they were gonna make sure they were laced even if it meant sneaking their mom's EBT card to make extra money, then have the nerve to wonder why there was only 1 week's worth of food when it doesn't last until the end of the month. And they have the nerve to act a certain kind of way when I don't. Hang with them when I scoop Tippy up. I mean, I used to live for them to visit, but they were in a world of their own, kinda messy. They were at my house for a barbecue last year and straight clashed with everyone else because Nika held up the food line making enough to-go plates to feed a small army. Weird thing is, Tippy didn't find anything wrong with the whole scenario, because although I wasn't surprised due to seeing them from time to time, as Tippy has a round-the-way girl next-door neighbor sightings every day. So yeah, I was glad as hell when they stopped staying over with us in what they refer to as that Dennis the Menace neighborhood. Hell, it stands to reason, our last name is Wilson after all.
Here is an individual character introduction and a clever, humorous synopsis for your story. Stuck-up couple knocked on their uppity asses. Character introductions. Paul Wilson. Paul went from high school grad to navy blue work uniform at Carolina Iron and Coal, hustling hard with big dreams and bigger ambitions. Now self-employed with Wilson Wiring, he's the family patriarch trying to keep the electric empire lit, but with a sneaky business lawyer in the shadows, Paul's about to get a shocking wake-up call. He's loyal to family, relentless in ambition, and has a sense of humor sharp enough to poke fun at his own high-class missteps. JaCinta Wilson. Bank teller turned branch manager, JaCinta is the queen behind the scenes, balancing her role as a powerhouse career woman and mother in a high-class world she never thought she'd enter. Fiercely protective of her family's rise, she's confident, clever, and not above calling out the hypocrisy of bougie acquaintances who haven't quite left the projects behind in spirit. P.J. Wilson. The charming heir apparent with a heart rooted in Kendrick Apartments but with eyes fixed on the sky. Preparing for the Air Force, PJ knows exactly where he came from and isn't ashamed of it, unlike some around him. He's the balance of street smart and star-bound, with a crew of old friends keeping him grounded even as he embraces the Wilson legacy. Celetha Wilson. The youngest and arguably the cheekiest Wilson, Celetha loves the perks of privilege but can't stand the bad boy types who claim project cred but lack ambition. She's living her best life with a luxury lifestyle and a biting wit, determined to stay far from the drama and low standards of the past. Aaron, JaCinta's friend. The quintessential ghetto fabulous queen, content with the government's assistance and pricey rides but resistant to upward mobility. Erin's a hurler of shade and laughter, perfectly content with her status and making sure everyone knows it, even if her life is a bit of a contradiction. ####, clever humorous synopsis. Paul and JaCinta Wilson thought leaving Kendrick Apartments behind meant upgrading their lives without the drama. They swapped their beat-up rides for a Lexus and Tesla, traded block parties for country club cocktails, and booted their old friends to join the high-maintenance set at Hyannis Landing. But when their pricey lawyer pal Richard decides to play fast and loose with their finances, the Wilson fortune takes a nosedive faster than their uppity attitudes. Now, faced with foreclosure and bankruptcy, the Wilsons get a harsh lesson in humility, and a reminder that you can take the couple out of the projects, but you can't always take the projects out of the couple. Hilarity ensues as they navigate the fallout, their fancy friends, and a stubborn refusal to admit they might just have been a little too bougie for their own good. This laugh-out-loud tale of ambition, pride, and the price of keeping up appearances proves that sometimes the higher you rise, the farther you have to fall, straight back into the arms of old hood friends and reality checks.